everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be watching 5 ways British and American meal etiquette is very different. So let's just get right into it. I like watching this channel. I've been subscribed to it for, I don't know, maybe 4 years now anyway, so he has some good stuff.
The process of eating. And so without further crab rangoon, here are 5 ways that British and American eating etiquette is very, very different. Whether you call it cutlery, like we do in Britain, or silverware or flatware, or in this case plasticware, because, you know, we are rationing. But it mostly comes down to how we hold the fork. In Britain, you hold it kind of like that, I think. So you've got it, the end of it's touching your palm, and then you sort of grasp it with your thumb and your pointy finger.
Yeah.
And it's there for pointing downward, right? And you stick it into the potatoes or the strawberries or the spotted dick. On the other hand, you have your knife, right? Usually like this, with the pointy finger right there, and it's touching your palm again. So consistent on both hands, right? It's almost an extension of you. You're almost Wolverine, but from the United Kingdom or Europe. And then you do this, and you cut into the potatoes or the strawberries or the creamy spotted dick. I mean, it can come with custard. That's normal. And voila, put it in your mouth. There's nothing on this. It's not. This isn't that scene in Hook where they eat invisible food. It goes this way round.
We were given spotted dick for for pudding in college. College is like America's year 12, grade 12. Do you guys have a grade 12? You have a grade 12, don't you? I don't know what I'm saying. I should probably watch a video on how your school systems differ. But yeah, so we used to be given spotted dick in college in the UK, and I used to I hated it. A lot of people like it, just like a lot of people like Victoria sponge, which is like, I think it's a vanilla sponge and it's got jam in the middle. I hate it. Can't. Nope. Refuse to put that in my mouth.
Right, with the tines facing downward toward your tongue. In America, it's quite a bit different, right? So people will hold their fork like this, with the tines facing upward. In other words, to kind of scoop up the food, right? So they'll do that.
Actually.
And actually sometimes, not every time, I mean, I'm sure there are people that circumvent all of the things you hear in this very list, but sometimes Americans won't even use a knife, right? You'll just see them scoop something up, maybe a potato. We won't go through the entire list again. Put it in their mouth. If they want to cut up things in that way, sometimes I'll do it with the fork, right? Don't recommend it with plastic forks. You know, you can get through these pretty quickly if you do that. But if they do use a knife, they may turn the fork like this into the potato and then cut like that. You've got it there, you turn it back around, it's in your gob, and there you go. Bob's your uncle, you've got potatoes. And, you know, that's what a lot of Americans do. My father-in-law, though, did this. He had it like that and like that. He'd turn it that way, and then
I've seen
like that.
Americans do that.
It sort of looked. I should tell you that my in-laws were cavemen, but it was through those very cavemen / dear relatives of my wife that I was first introduced to our next entry.
See, I don't think everyone's a monolith. I don't think that because some Americans do it this way, then that means everyone does it that way. But however, what I do think is, I've seen some Americans do the way that he mentioned that his in-laws do it. I've definitely seen that for sure. And I've always wondered about that, but not enough to ask or care.
Yes, saying grace. This one is quite a tough entry in many ways because, you know, in order to talk about it, I do have to somewhat generalise. And also, I don't have much data to back up what I'm about to say. It's more observationally driven, right? So when I lived in England for 27 years of my life, I don't say that with disdain. It was a good time. Cool. But in all that time, I don't really remember sitting down to a dinner function of any kind and really sort of saying grace beforehand. In other words, kicking off the meal with a sort of faith-based thanks. Now, part of that, and again, this is where the generalisation comes in, so bear with me, but in England, we tend to be less sort of like publicly open, or just sort of even privately open, if you can be, among your family members about your religious beliefs. Whereas in the United States, I think people are more sort of proud of that, whatever their religious faith is. And so sometimes in some families, and this again could be regional, so I might well be generalizing, but some families, including the extended relatives that I married into, I didn't marry married them. I married into the family. Some families, and I gather maybe quite a lot of families here in the United States, particularly at special events like Thanksgiving or maybe even a homecoming of some kind, will sort of say grace before the meal. And
Like, I don't think we've even done that at home. I think I would say it on my own, and my like parents and family would on their own, but it's never been a thing of like, let's all say grace on the meal, if that makes sense.
I do.
Think about that. You never think about the fact that in the UK people don't do that, but it's common in America.
And because I'm generalizing here, it's important for me to say that this is my experience. I'd be very interested to hear other people's experiences, other Europeans' experiences of coming here and maybe having to say grace when they're not used to it, or, you know, Americans that don't themselves practice this. I've also heard it can go one step further here where the whole family holds hands. You know, I definitely draw the line at that, especially right now. That leads us on to our next entry. Oh, I don't mind a bit of chatter and exceptionally weird noises. And at an American dinner table, you're going to get a lot of chatter.
I'm going to call it now. The things that they talk about differ, definitely, because I know some things are not acceptable in certain cultures.
Usually, again, this is another generalization, but on the whole, this is my experience. And I'm one of those people who doesn't think that Americans are always loud, as the stereotype dictates, but one exception tends to be in restaurants, right? I do hear the volume go up there as compared to Britain, where it feels like we're always battling with this war within ourselves to not air our dirty laundry.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. To not be like, because I know sometimes I'll be like out with someone and it could be like, it would be somebody I'm really close to. I wouldn't just say that to like a group of friends, but I'm more like, oh my god, your voice is really loud. And I would only say that to like somebody who I'm really close to, like my sister or something. In the UK, you're a restaurant, you're not trying to be heard. You don't want anyone to hear what you're talking about, especially if it's private. And even when you're out with friends and we're all just being like obnoxious or anything, it's like you're just like, oh my god, we're making noise. But that's also, I think, my personal preference. I don't like being very loud.
I'm not saying we don't talk at dinner tables, don't get me wrong. It feels observationally, once again, and again, there's no data on this. There's not somebody going around measuring the decibels in every restaurant in either country, especially right now because they're all closed. But that's my general experience of it. Now, I could be getting thrown off course a little bit here because, you know, my wife's family are really loud.
In 2020.
Don't tell them I said that, although this is a public video. They know it's true. I've told them before, and that's why we've not spoken in a year. But here in America, you might be in a restaurant, sitting down with just one other person, trying to have a quiet, intimate conversation. And to your right, there's this really loud family with a 5-year-old running around with a stupid hat on that he got from the restaurant, right? So they're further enhancing the volume of said family. And then on the other side, there's clearly what is a date happening. And the woman is just sitting there quietly, looking quite glum, while the man very audibly and haphazardly talks about all of the Fortune 500 companies he's worked for. And she stares into space, presumably thinking of all the ways that she can get out of there. But on the other hand, once you do get used to that sort of raised volume, it does add to the atmosphere, you know. And if you're already in a good mood and you enter somewhere where, you know, thousands, oh, that's a huge restaurant, hundreds maybe, where there's lots of people and they're in a good mood and it just sort of bounces off the walls, you know. But speaking of restaurants, that brings us on to our next entry. Servers. My heart does go out to all of the servers and anybody else to whom this applies around the world who can't go into work right now. And a huge thank you to delivery servers who are able to keep people fed who might need it. But, you know, back in peacetime when the restaurants were still open, there was quite a marked difference between, you know, British servers and American servers and the way they sort of conduct themselves at the dinner table while you're eating your dinner. In Britain, they're quite standoffish. And I know that's just a trait of British people in general. I get that. But they don't have the incentive, which we'll talk about in a minute, to constantly be coming back to your table and seeing how you're doing, checking if you need a refill on that water.
Do you need a refill?
You probably won't get one anyway. I'm joking, of course you'll get a free refill on your water, just nothing else. Often, know this, if you want their attention, you're going to have to get their attention yourself, and that includes when it comes time to pay the bill. Whereas in the United States, and each restaurant has
it's not even if you want their attention, you're going to have to get it yourself. You might need to, like, I don't want to say this and make it seem like it's all the same, but there are some places where it's like you doubly need to be like, hello, like last time I was out with my fiance's mother, we both try to get the server's attention, different servers over and over. And it's like, where are you guys looking? Where are you looking? Why do you not see two different women trying to get your attention?
Different policy on this. You know, the waiting staff will come to your table every 5 minutes usually, just to see how you're doing, and it seemingly doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a seriously one-sided conversation about the Fortune 500 companies you've worked for. They will still come over and go, hey, what's up, how's that tenderloin working out
How's
for
that
you? And there are a
tenderloin
couple of big
working out
reasons I
for
think
you?
that American serving staff do this. Firstly, the company often dictates it. It's seen as a kind of data-driven way of, you know, having good customer service. But having good customer service could well dictate this.
Yeah, we
Have they
don't
tried
tip in the
antifreeze
UK.
with that? No. Well, he might go back to his milk phase eventually. Yeah. Yeah. So the dreaded tip, or at least it was dreaded to me when I first moved to America, actually, when I landed at Philadelphia Airport. This is the first time I remember having to sort of navigate the American tipping system, because I bought a drink at a bar at that very airport. And having bought the Jack Daniels, or 6, I turned to the gentleman next to me and I asked him, how does tipping work? And, you know, he very, very kindly offered, well, whatever the amount is on your receipt, just give them 85% of that, and that's about good. That's standard. That was a lie, and I ended up almost bankrupt. Firstly, in the United States, regardless of the amount, it's very much expected that you do tip, because that's basically how servers make their wage. And the standard amount that you're expected to tip is the complete opposite of 85%. It's 15%, right? Yeah. But if you thought it was good service, or just to be sort of a good person, really, you can definitely tip more than that. I typically tip. Just try saying that after 6 whiskeys. I did that night. I typically tip, particularly if I'm on a trip, 20%, or, you know, I might even round up to 21 if it kind of requires it. In the UK, if you're thinking of going there, firstly, don't do that right now, but, you know, if after all this blows over you are fancying going to the UK, then you're not required to tip at all, right? I mean, people get paid a sort of living wage, more or less, for being a server in the UK. It's good practice. You know, if you want to do that, you certainly can. 10% is recommended. And, you know, growing up in the UK, I never really did tip all that often, I must say. I think if I were to live there now, I probably would do so a bit more. It's not expected. I mean, servers aren't going to expect you to tip. Although, if they hear your accent and you are American, their ears might prick up a bit, thinking, here comes a payday, right? Whereas, as ever, a reminder that you can keep up with me and all my stupid ramblings on Twitter at Lost in the Pond US.
That was a good video. Like I said, I like his channel, Lost in the Pond. Everyone should go subscribe. But yeah, that was nice. Just a nice little quick video to see little bits. I need to go charge my phone because I'm off to the gym in a little bit. But anyway, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Everybody have a lovely evening. Wait, well, I don't know what time you're going to be watching this, but have a good day. And yeah, suggest things that you want me to watch. And yeah, bye.